You might also get another question regarding asynchronous JavaScript. Here we must create a promise function to be able to use callback function via promise approach. And actually, just for you to know, previously we had a lot of callback functions because we didn't have promises. Then after some time in JavaScript, we migrated fully to promises, and now they are supported in JavaScript by default, which actually means we are not using callbacks that much anymore. And as you can see here, we have a standard callback function where inside we are doing some asynchronous code, and we must rewrite this function to promise approach, which actually means, for example, we are using some older library which is based on the callbacks, but the whole code of our project is using promises. This is why it makes a lot of sense to make a wrapper and to use this callback function through the promise. To do this, we must create a thing which is called promisify function, which actually means the same function but wrapped in promise. So we can name it promisify, and this is the typical naming for it, async func, just like on the top, and here we don't have any arguments. And inside here we want to call our async function, and when we have a callback, then we want to call our callback from the promise. This is why here we must return a new promise, and here inside promise we have resolve and reject, but we will use here only resolve because we don't have any error here. Now inside our promise we can just call directly our async function and put a callback inside. And actually this callback will give us some data back. This is why here I am writing data, and we even don't know what data we are talking about. Now inside we want just to call resolve and pass inside data from our asynchronous function. In this case, when asynchronous function is done, then our callback will be happening, and here inside callback we are getting data from asynchronous function, and we are calling in callback resolve for this promise that we created. And most importantly, that this function will return a promise. This is why we can use it now like this, promisify async function, we just call it and it returns us a promise. This is why we can write here then, we're getting some result, and we can do, for example, console log result. So we're using this function as a promise, and we've wrapped our async function in promisify. Let's check this out. I'm reloading the page, and as you can see, we're getting back 1 after some time, because here we have callback with 3000 milliseconds, which actually means we're getting our data after 3 seconds. And this code is working, and now everywhere in our application, we can use this callback function in promise approach.